"Sign these," he said, not even looking at me. I stared at that envelope like it was a snake. After 42 years of marriage, this man couldn't even give me the respect of a conversation. The kitchen went silent except for the old clock on the wall, the one his mama gave us as a wedding present. Tick, tick, tick. "Curtis, what are you talking about?" My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. He finally looked at me then, and I didn't recognize what I saw in his eyes. Cold, calculating. This wasn't the man I married at 23. This wasn't the man I stood beside through his mama's funeral, through job losses, through everything. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Lorraine. We both know this marriage has been dead for years. I want my half so I can move on with my life." His half. Those words hit me like a slap. We didn't have anything. Our little house was mortgaged. Our savings account had maybe $3,000. We lived off his pension and my part-time work at the church bookstore. What half was he talking about? Then it hit me. My Aunt Sharita. Before we continue, please comment below as I'd love to hear your thoughts and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. Let me back up and tell you how we got here, because this story starts way before that moment in my kitchen. Aunt Sharita was my mama's oldest sister, and she was what folks called different. Never married, never had kids, spent her whole life working as a nurse and investing every penny she made. She lived in a tiny apartment in Detroit, drove the same car for 20 years, and wore the same 3 church dresses on rotation. Everybody thought she was just scraping by, but Aunt Sharita was smart, real smart. 3 months before Curtis handed me those papers, Aunt Sharita passed away at 91 years old. I flew up to Detroit for the funeral by myself because Curtis said he couldn't take off work. That should have been my first sign, because Curtis was retired. What work? At the funeral, Aunt Sharita's lawyer, a sharp-dressed brother named Mr. Wellington, pulled me aside. "Mrs. Lorraine Thornton, your aunt left specific instructions that I speak with you privately. Can you come to my office tomorrow before you fly back?" I almost didn't go. I figured maybe she left me some costume jewelry or her Bible or something sentimental. But something in Mr. Wellington's face made me curious, so I showed up to his office the next morning. "Mrs. Thornton," he said, sliding a folder across his mahogany desk. "Your Aunt Sharita wanted you to know that she's been watching you all these years. She saw how you took care of everyone, how you never complained, how you held your family together." I started crying right there, because Aunt Sharita barely said 2 words to me at family gatherings. I didn't think she even noticed me. "Your aunt was a very wealthy woman," Mr. Wellington continued. "Through careful investing over 60 years, she accumulated an estate worth approximately $4.2 million. The room started spinning. $4.2 million? I gripped the arms of that leather chair so hard my knuckles went white. "She's leaving it all to you, Mrs. Thornton. Every penny. But there are conditions." Of course there were conditions. That was Aunt Sharita through and through. Mr. Wellington opened the folder and showed me the paperwork. The inheritance would be released in exactly 90 days to allow time for the estate to be processed. During those 90 days, I wasn't supposed to tell anyone except my lawyer. Aunt Sharita called it a character test. She wanted to see who stood by me when they thought I had nothing. I signed papers that day, swearing I wouldn't discuss the details with anyone. Mr. Wellington said he'd contact me when everything was finalized. I flew home to Georgia feeling like I was in a dream. $4 million. I could barely wrap my mind around it. But I kept my promise to Aunt Sharita. I didn't tell a soul. Not my best friend Geneva. Not my children. And not Curtis. But somehow, Curtis found out anyway. Looking back now, I can piece it together. My cousin Roland was at that funeral. Roland, who always had his ear to the ground, who always knew everybody's business. Roland, who played poker with Curtis every month. Curtis started acting different about 2 weeks after I got back from Detroit. He was nicer at first, asking me how I was feeling if I needed anything. He even took me out to dinner at Red Lobster, which we hadn't done in 5 years. I thought maybe we were finally getting back to something good after all those hard years. Then he started asking questions, casual-like, but I should have known better. Your Aunt Sharita, she ever mention anything about investments? That funeral must have cost a pretty penny. How'd they pay for it? You hear anything about her will? She leave you anything? I played dumb every time, said I didn't know, said we didn't talk about that sort of thing. And every time I said it, I watched something change in Curtis's face. That warmth that had come back started fading away, replaced by something else. Frustration. Then anger. He started spending more time away from home. Said he was going fishing, playing cards, visiting his brother. Our house got quieter and quieter. We'd sit at the dinner table and barely say 10 words to each other. At night, he'd sleep turned away from me, right on the edge of his side of the bed. I was counting down the days. 70 days left. 60 days. 50. Then, 45 days after I got back from Detroit, Curtis walked in with those divorce papers. I didn't sign them that first day. I told him I needed time to think, time to pray on it. He got so mad he punched a hole in our bedroom wall. A hole. In 42 years of marriage, Curtis had never been violent. Never. You think you're smart, don't you? He yelled. You think I don't know? Sign the papers, Lorraine. Sign them now while I'm still being nice about it. I locked myself in the bathroom and called Geneva. Come get me, I whispered. Please. Geneva showed up 20 minutes later with her daughter Keisha. They helped me pack a bag, and I stayed at Geneva's house that night. And the next night. And the night after that. Curtis called me 37 times that first day. 37. I didn't answer. He left voicemails, and they went from angry to desperate to threatening and back to angry again. On day 3, Geneva said, Baby, you need to get yourself a lawyer. She was right. I found a sister from our church who practiced family law, attorney Denise Foster. Sharp as a tack and known for not taking any mess from anybody. I brought her the divorce papers Curtis had given me. Attorney Foster read through them and her eyebrows went up. Mrs. Thornton, does your husband think you have assets he doesn't know about? Why do you ask? Because these papers are aggressive. He's asking for half of everything, including any inheritances or gifts received during the marriage. That's a very specific clause. My heart dropped. I can't talk about certain things. I signed papers. Attorney Foster nodded slowly. I understand, but I need to know one thing, and you can answer yes or no. Is there an inheritance coming that your husband knows about, but you can't discuss openly? Yes, I whispered. And does the inheritance have its own legal protections? Yes. My aunt's lawyer said there are conditions. Attorney Foster smiled for the first time. Then here's what we're going to do. I'm going to contact your aunt's lawyer, and I'm going to find out exactly what those conditions are. Because if your husband is trying to divorce you to get his hands on money he thinks is coming, we need to know if he's even entitled to any of it. She called Mr. Wellington right there from her office, with me sitting across from her desk. I watched her face change as she listened to him talk. She started smiling. Then she started grinning. Then she actually laughed out loud. Mr. Wellington, can you send me that clause in writing? Perfect. Mrs. Thornton and I will be in touch. She hung up and looked at me. Lorraine, your Aunt Sharita was a genius. What do you mean? The inheritance clause. Did Mr. Wellington explain all of it to you? He said I couldn't tell anyone for 90 days. He said it was a character test. It was more than that. Your aunt put in a very specific provision. If anyone files for divorce or makes any legal claim against you during those 90 days, they automatically forfeit any right to the inheritance. Not just half of it, all of it. The entire inheritance becomes yours alone, completely separate from marital assets. I couldn't breathe. What are you saying? I'm saying your husband just disqualified himself. By filing these papers during the 90-day waiting period, Curtis just gave up any legal claim to your $4 million. It's yours, Lorraine, all yours. He can't touch a penny of it. I started crying again, but this time it was different. Relief, joy, fear, all of it mixed together. What do I do now? I asked. Attorney Foster leaned back in her chair. Now? Now we wait for those 90 days to pass. We don't sign anything. We don't agree to anything. We let him think he's winning. And when that inheritance comes through and he realizes what he's done, we'll be ready. I stayed at Geneva's house for the next 6 weeks. Curtis called every day, then every other day. Then the calls stopped altogether. Finally, the 90th day came. Mr. Wellington called me personally. Mrs. Thornton, the funds have been released. The inheritance is now in your account, all $4.2 million. Congratulations. Your aunt would be proud. I hung up and just sat there on Geneva's couch, staring at my phone. I was a millionaire. After 67 years of scraping by, clipping coupons, working part-time jobs to help make ends meet, I was a millionaire. Attorney Foster filed our response to Curtis's divorce petition that same day. In it, she included a copy of Aunt Sharita's will and the disqualification clause. She said Curtis's lawyer probably got it by fax around 3 p.m. Curtis showed up at Geneva's house at 6:30 that evening. I was in the kitchen helping Geneva make cornbread when we heard someone pounding on the front door. Not knocking. Pounding. Lorraine, I know you're in there. Open this door. Geneva looked at me. You want me to call the police? Not yet, I said. I went to the door but didn't open it. Curtis, you need to leave. You set me up, he screamed through the door. You knew about that money and you set me up. That's my money too. I've been your husband for 42 years. You filed for divorce, Curtis. You said you wanted your half so you could move on with your life, remember? I didn't know about the clause. Your aunt was crazy. No court is going to uphold that. Attorney Foster had already told me this might happen. Curtis, my lawyer says the clause is ironclad. You filed for divorce during the waiting period. You disqualified yourself. It's done. You can't do this to me, Lorraine. I'll fight you. I'll take you to court. You do what you need to do, Curtis. I'm not signing those divorce papers. If you want a divorce, you're going to have to see it through to the end. And you're not getting 1 penny of Aunt Sharita's money. I heard him kick the door. Then I heard him crying. Actually crying. Lorraine, baby, wait. Let's talk about this. I made a mistake. I was confused. I was listening to bad advice. We can work this out. And that's when I knew. In that moment, hearing Curtis cry on Geneva's front porch, I knew exactly what kind of man I'd been married to all these years. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. Go home, Curtis, I said through the door. Leave me alone. I walked back to the kitchen and didn't look back. Geneva squeezed my hand. You did good, baby. But the story was far from over. Because 3 days later, Attorney Foster called me with news that changed everything. Lorraine, Curtis withdrew his divorce petition this morning. I sat down hard on Geneva's couch. He what? He withdrew it, completely. His lawyer filed the paperwork an hour ago. Curtis is claiming it was filed in error due to emotional distress. He's saying he wants to reconcile. My hands started shaking. Can he do that? Just take it back? Legally? Yes. But here's the problem. The clause in your aunt's will said if anyone files for divorce or makes any legal claim during the 90-day period, they forfeit rights to the inheritance. Filing counts, even if withdrawn. Curtis still triggered the disqualification. So the money is still mine? The money is still yours. But Lorraine, Curtis knows that now. And desperate people do desperate things. I need you to be very careful. She was right to warn me. Because what happened next, I never saw coming. Curtis started showing up everywhere I went. The first time was at church that Sunday. I walked into Mount Zion Baptist with Geneva, and there he was, sitting in our usual pew like nothing had happened. We hadn't sat together in that pew in 2 months, not since he handed me those divorce papers. But there he was, dressed in his good suit, holding a hymnal, smiling at people like he was the perfect husband. I turned right around and sat on the other side of the church with Geneva. I could feel his eyes on me through the whole service. When Pastor Williams called for anyone who needed prayer, Curtis stood up. "I'd like the church to pray for my marriage," he said, his voice breaking just right. "I made some terrible mistakes, and I'm asking God to help me make things right with my wife." Half the congregation turned to look at me. I wanted to sink through the floor. After service, 3 different church mothers came up to me talking about forgiveness and how marriage is sacred and how a man deserves a second chance. Geneva pulled me away before I said something I'd regret. "Don't let him manipulate you through the church," she whispered. "That's exactly what he's doing." She was right, but it still hurt. These were people I'd known for 30 years. They didn't know what Curtis had done. They just saw a man asking for forgiveness. Curtis followed me to the parking lot. "Lorraine, please, can we just talk?" "We have nothing to talk about, Curtis. I love you. I've always loved you. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Pastor Williams said he'd meet with us." I looked at this man I'd spent 42 years with. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. Desperate. "You don't love me, Curtis. You love that money. And you can't have it." His face changed then. Just for a second, the mask slipped, and I saw the anger underneath. But he caught himself and put the sad husband look back on. "That's not true. I don't care about the money. I care about us. Goodbye, Curtis." I got in Geneva's car and we drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched him standing in that parking lot, and something about the way he was looking at his phone made my stomach turn. The next day, my daughter Brianna called. I hadn't talked to Brianna in almost 3 weeks, which should have been my first warning sign. Brianna was my oldest, 40 years old, working as a real estate agent in Atlanta. She'd always been Daddy's girl. "Mama, we need to talk about what you're doing to Dad." Not, "How are you doing, Mama?" Not, "Are you okay?" Just straight into defending her father. "Brianna, do you know what your father did?" "He told me everything. He told me about the inheritance and how you're refusing to share it with him." "Mama, that's wrong. He's your husband. You've been married over 40 years. He deserves half." I closed my eyes. Curtis had gotten to her first. Of course he had. "Did he tell you he filed for divorce to try to take that money? Did he tell you he handed me papers in the middle of making sweet potato pie and told me to sign over half of everything?" Silence on the other end. Then, "He said you two were having problems, and he thought divorce might be best. He didn't know about the inheritance when he filed." That's a lie, Brianna. He knew. That's exactly why he filed when he did. Mama, listen to yourself. You sound paranoid. Maybe you should talk to someone. This kind of money can change people. Make them see things that aren't there. I felt like she'd slapped me through the phone. Are you saying I'm crazy? I'm saying you're making decisions that are tearing our family apart. Dad is devastated. He's barely eating. He's lost 15 pounds. And for what? Money you didn't even know existed 3 months ago? Money that's turning you into someone I don't recognize? I'm not turning into anyone, baby. I'm just finally seeing clearly. Well, maybe you need glasses then, because from where I'm standing, you're being cruel and selfish. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. My heart dropped. What do you mean? Terrell and I have been talking. We think you need to do the right thing and share that inheritance with Dad. He earned it too, standing by you all these years. Terrell, my son, my baby boy who I raised, who I sacrificed for, who I worked 2 jobs to put through college. He thought I was being selfish. Let me talk to Terrell, I said. He doesn't want to talk to you right now, Mama. Not until you come to your senses. She hung up. Just like that. My own daughter hung up on me. I sat there in Geneva's guest room and cried harder than I'd cried in years. This wasn't about the money. This had never been about the money. This was about my husband trying to divorce me the second he thought I had something worth taking, and now my own children were taking his side. Geneva found me an hour later, still crying. She held me while I told her what Brianna said. "Oh, honey," she said. "Curtis is playing chess while you're playing checkers. He's turning your babies against you. They're not babies anymore. They're grown. They should see through this. Should and do are two different things. He's their father. They want to believe him. And he's good at playing the victim. You saw that at church." Attorney Foster said the same thing when I called her the next day. "Mrs. Thornton, this is a common tactic. He's isolating you, turning your support system against you. We need to be proactive. I think it's time we filed a restraining order." "Against my own husband?" "Against a man who's stalking you and using emotional manipulation to try to get access to your money. Yes." We filed the restraining order that week. Curtis had to stay at least 500 feet away from me at all times. No calls, no texts, no contact through third parties. The order was served to him on a Thursday. On Friday, both of my children showed up at Geneva's house together. I saw Terrell's car pull up and my heart leaped. My boy, my baby. He was 35 now, working as an accountant, married with 2 kids of his own. Maybe he'd come to his senses. Maybe he'd come to make sure I was okay. But when I opened the door and saw both their faces, I knew this wasn't a reconciliation. "Mama, we need to talk," Terrell said. He looked so much like Curtis it hurt. Same eyes, same jaw, same disappointed expression that made you feel small. I let them in. Geneva made herself scarce, but I knew she was listening from the kitchen. "You got a restraining order against Dad?" Brianna said, not even sitting down. "Mama, what is wrong with you? Your father was harassing me. He was trying to talk to his wife, the woman he's been married to since before we were born." "He filed for divorce, Brianna. He wanted out." "I'm just giving him what he asked for." Terrell stepped forward. "Mama, we know about Aunt Sharita's clause. We know about the 90 days and how Dad filing disqualified him. Dad explained everything." "Then you know he tried to take money that wasn't his." "It should have been partly his," Terrell shouted. I'd never heard him raise his voice at me before. Never. "You're married. That's how marriage works. You share everything." "Not inheritances with clauses specifically designed to protect them from exactly what your father tried to do." Brianna crossed her arms. "We talked to a lawyer too, Mama. A different lawyer. He said that clause might not hold up in court. He said it's possible to challenge it as unconscionable." My blood went cold. "You hired a lawyer? Against me?" "Not against you," Terrell said. "For the family." "For all of us." "All of us," I repeated slowly. "You mean you want some of that money too?" The silence in that room was deafening. Brianna looked away. Terrell at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Mama, we're not trying to take anything from you, but think about it. $4 million. You could help us. Brianna's struggling with her mortgage. My daughter needs braces and my son needs tutoring. We're family. Family helps each other." "Family," I said softly. "Family filed for divorce the second they smelled money. Family turned my own children against me. Family hired lawyers to challenge my aunt's last wishes." "Mama, don't be dramatic," Brianna said. Something in me broke then. Not broke down. Broke open. "Get out." "Mama," I said, "get out. Both of you. You want to hire lawyers against your own mother?" You want to side with a man who tried to divorce me for money? Fine, you do that, but you don't get to do it in my face. Get out of this house right now." "You're going to regret this," Brianna said, her voice cold. "When you're old and alone and need someone to take care of you, remember this moment. Remember that you chose money over your own children." They left. I watched through the window as they sat in Terrell's car for 10 minutes, probably calling Curtis, probably plotting their next move. Then they drove away. Geneva came out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. She didn't say anything, just sat next to me and held my hand while I stared at nothing. "I raised them better than this," I finally said. "Didn't I?" "You raised them the best you could, but Curtis raised them too. And right now, his voice is louder than yours." The lawyer Brianna and Terrell hired filed papers the next week challenging Aunt Sharita's will. They claimed the clause was invalid, that it violated public policy, that it was designed to interfere with marital rights. Attorney Foster said it was a nuisance suit with no merit, but it would take time and money to fight. "How much time?" I asked. "Could be 6 months, could be a year. These things drag out." "And the money? Can they freeze it?" "They're going to try. There's a hearing next month. We'll fight it, but I need you to be prepared for this to get ugly." It got ugly faster than either of us expected. 3 days after the suit was filed, I got a call from my granddaughter Jasmine. She was Terrell's oldest, 16 years old, and she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't know they were doing this." "Baby, calm down. What's wrong?" "Dad took my phone. He said I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore. He and Mom had a huge fight about it. Mom said you're toxic, and Dad said you're tearing the family apart, and I said I wanted to see you, and Dad said no. He said if I contact you, he'll take away my car." My heart shattered. "Jasmine, honey. I'm using my friend's phone right now. Grandma, I don't understand what's happening. Why is everyone so angry? Why can't I see you anymore?" I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to explain how her grandfather tried to steal from me, how her father and aunt were suing me, how money had poisoned everything. But she was 16. She shouldn't have to carry this weight. "Baby, sometimes grown-ups have problems that are hard to explain. But I want you to know something. I love you so much. And none of this is your fault. None of it. You understand me?" "I love you too, Grandma. I miss you." "I miss you too, baby. So much." After we hung up, I sat there thinking about Jasmine and her little brother Marcus, about my other grandchild, Brianna's daughter Kennedy. 3 grandchildren I might not see grow up because of greed. Because of money I didn't even ask for. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Curtis, about our wedding day, about the moment we brought Brianna home from the hospital, about Terrell's first steps. Where had it all gone wrong? Or had it always been wrong and I just couldn't see it? At 3 in the morning, I got up and went to Geneva's kitchen. I made myself some chamomile tea and sat at her table in the dark. That's when I heard it. A sound outside, something scraping against the house. I looked out the window and my heart stopped. Curtis was in Geneva's backyard. He was just standing there in the dark, staring at the house, staring at the window where my room was. He had something in his hand. At first I thought it was a phone, but when he moved, I saw the streetlight catch it. A tire iron. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. "There's a man in the backyard. My ex-husband. I have a restraining order. Please hurry." The operator kept me on the line. "Stay inside, ma'am. Officers are on the way. Can you still see him?" I looked out the window again. Curtis was gone. Just gone. Like he'd melted into the shadows. The police arrived 7 minutes later. They searched Geneva's whole yard, the street, everywhere. They found footprints in the flower bed under my window. Fresh footprints. But no Curtis. "We'll drive by every hour tonight," the officer told me. "And we'll pay your husband a visit in the morning. Let him know we're watching. He violated the restraining order. If we catch him here again, he's going to jail." After they left, Geneva and I sat up the rest of the night. Neither of us said it out loud, but we were both thinking the same thing. Curtis wasn't giving up, and he was getting desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. Attorney Foster's words echoed in my head. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Thornton?" A woman's voice I didn't recognize. "Yes?" "My name is Patricia Caldwell. I'm Curtis's girlfriend. We need to talk." The world stopped spinning. Curtis had a girlfriend. "I know this is a shock," Patricia said, her voice quiet. "But please don't hang up. I'm calling because I'm scared. Curtis has been... He's not himself, and I think you're in danger." Geneva was staring at me, mouthing, "Who is it?" I put the phone on speaker with trembling hands. "How long?" I asked. "How long have you been with my husband?" 3 years? Patricia's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married at first. By the time I found out, I was already... It doesn't matter. That's not why I'm calling. Curtis told me everything about the inheritance. He's been obsessed with it. Mrs. Thornton, last night he came home at 4 a.m. with mud all over his shoes. He had a tire iron in his car. When I asked him where he'd been, he told me to mind my business." My stomach turned. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I heard him on the phone this morning. He was talking to some man about taking care of the problem. He said, 'If she won't give me what's mine, I'll get it another way.' Mrs. Thornton, I think he's planning something. Something bad." Geneva grabbed my other hand. "We need to call the police right now." "I already did," Patricia said. "I called them before I called you. They said they're sending someone to Curtis's apartment. But I wanted to warn you directly. Please be careful. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but please, protect yourself." "Why would you help me? You've been sleeping with my husband for 3 years." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Because I have a daughter. She's 23, and if some man ever treated her the way Curtis has treated you, I'd want someone to warn her. Some things are bigger than our mistakes. This is one of them." After we hung up, I just sat there. 3 years. Curtis had been cheating on me for 3 years. While I was cooking his dinners and washing his clothes and sleeping next to him every night, he was with another woman. "Lorraine," Geneva said gently, "we need to pack you up. You're not safe here anymore." She was right. Within an hour, we had my things in her car and we were driving across town to her cousin's house in Decatur. Her cousin Raymond had a spare room and, more importantly, a big dog and a security system. Attorney Foster met us there that afternoon with a police detective named Williams. He was a tall black man in his 50s with kind eyes and a notebook. "Mrs. Thornton," Detective Williams said, "we picked up your husband this morning. He's being held for violating the restraining order. We found the tire iron in his car, and there's mud on it that matches the soil composition from Ms. Kemp's yard. We also found some concerning items in his apartment." "What kind of items?" Detective Williams glanced at Attorney Foster, then back at me. "A notebook with your daily schedule written in it. Photos of you at different locations. Ms. Geneva Kemp's address, Mr. Raymond Foster's address. We found that one this morning after Ms. Caldwell called us. He's been following you, Mrs. Thornton, and based on some internet searches we found on his computer, we believe he was researching ways to gain access to your inheritance through coercion or intimidation." "Can you keep him in jail?" I asked. "For now, yes. He'll have a bail hearing tomorrow. But Mrs. Thornton, I need you to understand something. Your husband is facing serious charges, but he's also in serious financial trouble. We got his bank records. He's maxed out 5 credit cards. He's behind on his truck payment, and he owes money to some people who don't take kindly to not being paid." "What people?" "Let's just say they're not businessmen. Curtis has been gambling heavily for the past year. He owes approximately $70,000 to various bookies and loan sharks. Some of these men have criminal records for assault and extortion. My head was spinning. Gambling? Curtis? I didn't know he gambled. Those poker games he told you about? Those were high-stakes games with some dangerous people. He's been losing steadily for months. That inheritance your aunt left you? That wasn't just about greed or hurt feelings. That was about Curtis being desperate enough to do desperate things to pay off dangerous people. Geneva squeezed my hand. Lord have mercy. There's more, Detective Williams said. Your children, Brianna and Terrell? Curtis borrowed money from both of them over the past year, told them it was for home repairs and medical expenses. Combined, he took almost $40,000 from them. That's why they were so invested in getting part of the inheritance. They weren't just greedy, they were trying to recoup money they'd already lost to their father's lies. Do they know? I asked. We informed them this morning. And Mrs. Thornton, they've asked to speak with you. My heart jumped. They did? Your son Terrell specifically. He asked if we could arrange a meeting. Said there are things he needs to say to you. That meeting happened 2 days later in Attorney Foster's office. Terrell came alone. Brianna sent a message through him saying she wasn't ready yet, but she was sorry. She was so sorry. When Terrell walked in, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped. He sat down across from me and just started crying. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know any of it. I wanted to stay strong, wanted to hold on to my anger. But he was my baby. I went around that desk and held him while he cried. Dad lied to us, he said when he could finally talk. About everything. The divorce, the money he borrowed, the gambling. He told us you were being selfish and cruel, and we believed him because he's our father. We thought you'd changed because of the money. We thought the inheritance had made you someone different. But it wasn't you who changed, it was Dad. Or maybe he was always like this, and we just couldn't see it. Baby, it's okay. It's not okay, Mama. We hired a lawyer against you. We sued you. We told our kids they couldn't see you. Kennedy cried for 3 days asking for her grandma. Jasmine has been so angry at me she won't even come out of her room. And you know what the worst part is? You tried to tell us. You tried to tell us the truth, and we called you paranoid and selfish and crazy. Terrell, look at me. I lifted his chin. Your father is very good at manipulation. He had me fooled for 42 years. I don't blame you for believing him. But we should have believed you. You're our mother. You've never lied to us, never hurt us, never been anything but loving and supportive. And the first time you stood up for yourself, we turned on you. We chose him over you. You chose what you thought was right based on the information you had. Now you have new information. What matters is what you do now. What Terrell did was drop the lawsuit that same day. He called Brianna, and by that evening, she'd signed the papers to dismiss it too. They both wrote letters to the judge explaining that they'd been misled by their father and had no desire to challenge Aunt Sharita's will. Curtis's bail hearing happened the next week. Attorney Foster and I went to watch. Curtis looked terrible. Gray skin, greasy hair, wearing an orange jumpsuit that hung off his shrinking frame. When they brought him into the courtroom, he looked right at me. No anger this time. Just desperation. The prosecutor laid out the charges: stalking, violating a restraining order, criminal intimidation. Curtis's public defender tried to argue that his client was just a distraught husband trying to save his marriage. The prosecutor showed the photos of Curtis following me, showed his internet search history, called Patricia Caldwell to testify about his violent behavior and threats. Then the prosecutor called me to the stand. Mrs. Thornton, can you describe your marriage to Curtis Thornton? I took a breath. I thought I had a good marriage. For 42 years, I thought we were partners. I worked, I raised our children, I kept our home, I supported his dreams. When he was out of work, I took extra shifts. When his mama got sick, I was the one who sat with her in the hospital. I thought that's what marriage was, two people supporting each other through everything. When did that change? When he thought I had something worth taking. The judge, a stern black woman named Judge Morrison, looked at Curtis with disgust. "Mr. Thornton, I've read the reports. I've seen the evidence. You filed for divorce specifically to try to claim half of an inheritance your wife received. When that failed, you began a campaign of harassment and intimidation. You violated a restraining order. You stalked your wife in the middle of the night with a weapon. And according to testimony, you did all of this while maintaining a 3-year affair and accumulating massive gambling debts. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Curtis stood up. "I love my wife, Your Honor. I made mistakes, but I love her. I just want a chance to make things right. You don't love your wife, Mr. Thornton. You love what you thought you could get from her. Bail is denied. You'll remain in custody until trial. And Mr. Thornton, I suggest you take the plea deal the prosecutor offers you, because if this goes to trial and you lose, you're looking at significant prison time." Curtis was led away. He tried to look back at me one more time, but I didn't meet his eyes. I had nothing left to say to him. After the hearing, Attorney Foster and I stood on the courthouse steps. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now? Now you live your life, Lorraine. You're free." Free. The word felt foreign on my tongue. After 67 years of living for everyone else, I didn't know what freedom looked like. But I was about to find out. The first thing I did was buy my own house. Not a mansion, not something showy, but a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet neighborhood with a big backyard. I hired an interior decorator, a young sister named Simone, who helped me pick out furniture that was mine, that reflected my taste, not Curtis's or anyone else's. The second thing I did was set up college funds for all 3 of my grandchildren. Not to buy their love, but because I wanted them to have opportunities I never had. The third thing I did was pay off Terrell and Brianna's mortgages. They'd been lied to by their father and had lost money because of his manipulation. I couldn't fix what Curtis broke, but I could help them start over. When I told Terrell what I'd done, he cried again. "Mama, you didn't have to do this. Not after what we did to you." "I know I didn't have to. I wanted to. You're my children. That doesn't change just because we had a rough patch." Brianna came to see me a week after I moved into my new house. She brought Kennedy, who was 7 years old and had made me a drawing of our family with "I missed you, Grandma," written in crayon across the top. "Mama," Brianna said, her voice small, "I don't know how to apologize for what I said to you, for what I did. I've been so ashamed." "Baby, come here." I pulled her into a hug. "We're going to be okay. It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay." Jasmine started coming over every Saturday. We'd cook together, her teaching me TikTok recipes, me teaching her the old family recipes Aunt Sharita taught me. Marcus, Terrell's youngest, came too when his football schedule allowed. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt what Curtis had tried to destroy. Curtis took the plea deal. 3 years in prison for stalking and violation of a restraining order, reduced from the 5 years he was facing. Patricia Caldwell left him before the trial, moved to Florida to live with her daughter, and sent me a card that just said, "Thank you for being gracious." The divorce was finalized 6 months after Curtis went to prison. I didn't contest it, I didn't fight it, I just signed the papers and moved on. He got nothing, not the house we'd lived in, which was in foreclosure anyway due to his debts, not a penny of the inheritance, nothing but the consequences of his own choices. 1 year after Aunt Sharita died, I was sitting on my back porch drinking sweet tea when Geneva called. "Girl, you sitting down?" "I'm on the porch. Why?" "Curtis called me. From prison. Asked me to give you a message." My stomach tightened. "What message?" "He said to tell you he's sorry. Said he knows sorry doesn't fix anything, but he needed you to know. Said he understands now what he threw away. Said he was a fool." I was quiet for a long moment, watching a butterfly land on my new rose bushes. You know what, Geneva? I believe he is sorry. I believe he finally understands what he lost. But that's his burden to carry now, not mine. That's real growth, Lorraine. Real wisdom. I had a good teacher, I said, thinking of Aunt Sharita. She knew exactly what she was doing with that 90-day clause. She wasn't just testing who loved me. She was showing me who I needed to love myself enough to leave behind. I donated $1 million to Mount Zion Baptist for their community center renovation. Pastor Williams cried when I handed him the check. I started a scholarship fund for young Black women pursuing nursing degrees in honor of Aunt Sharita. I invested wisely, lived comfortably, and learned that having money didn't change who I was. It just gave me the freedom to be fully myself for the first time in my life. Last month I got a letter from Curtis. It was long, rambling, full of apologies and regrets and promises to be better when he got out. At the end, he asked if there was any chance at all, that we could try again when his sentence was up. I read it once, then put it in the shredder. Some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. I'm 68 years old now. I live alone in my beautiful house with my beautiful garden. My grandchildren visit every week. My children and I are healing, learning to trust again. Building something new from the ashes of what Curtis burned down. Geneva and I take trips. We just got back from visiting my cousin in Detroit, staying in a fancy hotel, eating at nice restaurants, living the life Aunt Sharita always wanted for me. People ask me sometimes if I'm lonely, if I miss being married, if I ever wish things had turned out differently. And I tell them the truth. I've never been less lonely in my life. Because I finally have something I never had before. I have myself. Fully, completely, unapologetically myself. And that, I'm learning, is worth more than all the money in the world. Curtis gets out of prison in 2 years. I heard through the grapevine that he's already trying to figure out where I live, that he's telling people he just needs one conversation to make things right. But he won't find me. And even if he does, my door will stay closed, because the only person who gets to walk through my doors now is someone who loved me when they thought I had nothing. And Curtis failed that test the day he handed me those divorce papers in my kitchen. Aunt Sharita knew what she was doing. She gave me more than money. She gave me freedom. She gave me clarity. She gave me a mirror that showed me the truth I'd been too afraid to see. And I will be grateful to her for the rest of my days. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.